Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions out there. How does a great business idea actually happen? We're going to follow the entire journey, right from that first little spark all the way to a product sitting on a shelf. Let's get into it.
Okay, so seriously, have you ever looked at some super successful product and just thought, how in the world did they come up with that? It can honestly feel like some kind of magic, but I promise you it's not. There's a roadmap, a real, structured process that takes a fleeting thought and turns it into something people actually want to buy. And today, we're going to follow that map step by step.
So first things first, where do we even start looking for these brilliant ideas? Well, it turns out there are two main treasure troves that pretty much any business can tap into.
Yeah, ideas really come from two main places, from inside the company's own walls and from the big, wide world outside. And here's the thing. The most innovative companies, they don't pick one over the other, they get really good at listening to both.
You know, the power of looking inward is so often underestimated. Your own employees are right there on the front lines, hearing what customers want day in and day out. And beyond just formal R&D, you've got this cool thing called intrapreneurship, where employees innovate from within. A perfect example? Google's Gmail. That wasn't some big corporate plan. It started as one employee's side project.
But of course, looking outward is just as critical. You can learn a ton from your competitors, kind of like when Lidl saw how successful all these in-store bakeries were and pretty quickly introduced their own. But the clues are everywhere, in market research, what's trending in the media, even in new government policies.
Okay, so let's say you've got a whole bunch of ideas. Here's the tough truth. Most of them, they're not going to be winners. And that's exactly why every single idea has to run the gauntlet, a really tough screening process to separate the brilliant from the, well, not so brilliant.
So let's look at the first few hurdles in this gauntlet. Right after you generate the ideas, you hit product screening, then concept development, and then the super important feasibility study. This is where an idea starts to get real. Product screening is all about being ruthless, but in a good way. This is where you filter out the ideas that are just totally impractical so you don't waste time and money. Think about the Irish crisp company Tayto. They might dream up 100 different flavors, but they have to screen out the really weird ones to focus on the ones that actually have a shot at being a hit.
So next up, an idea has to become a concept. This isn't just, hey, let's make crisps. It's about giving that product an identity, a unique selling point, or a USP. Take Kehoe's Crisps, for example. Their concept isn't just potato crisps. It's hand-cooked Irish potato crisps. That immediately tells you a story about its quality and where it's from, and that's what sets it apart.
Now, before you get any further, it is absolutely time for a reality check, the feasibility study. This is where you got to ask the hard questions, like technically, can we actually build this thing? And financially, is it going to make any money? This step is totally non-negotiable. It keeps you from pouring resources into a dead end.
I mean, think about it. An energy company doesn't just wake up one day and say, let's build a wind farm. They have to do a massive feasibility study, looking at every little thing, from construction costs to finding the windiest spot to navigating all the environmental laws. All that homework stops them from starting a project that's basically doomed from the start.
All right, so our idea has survived the first few rounds. It's proven to be a solid concept, and it's actually feasible. Now it's time to head into the workshop and start making something real.
Let's check out how this all builds to the finish line with the final 3 steps. Developing a prototype, test marketing it, and then finally the big one, full-scale production and launch. This is one of the most exciting parts for sure, creating a prototype. It's the first physical version, a mock-up that you can actually hold and test. It lets you check everything, the design, the materials, how it works. Think of a company like Kerrygold creating new butter packaging. They're going to make samples to see how they feel and work before they commit to making millions of them.
Once you have a working prototype, you're ready for test marketing. This basically means you launch the product in a small, controlled way, maybe in just one city or a handful of stores, to see how real customers react. It is a huge risk reducer before you bet the whole company on a massive launch. A great example of this is the Irish coffee company Bewley's. Before they launch a new coffee blend everywhere, they might test it in a few of their Dublin cafes first. The feedback they get from actual coffee drinkers, it's absolutely priceless for making those last few tweaks to the taste, the price, or even how they advertise it.
So we've walked through this whole journey, from spark to launch. What's the big picture here?
Why should any of us, aspiring innovators, entrepreneurs, why should we care about having a structured process?
It really all comes down to this. Look, ideas are easy. The world is swimming in them. But the difference between a random thought and a real, successful business, it's not luck. It is having a process and having the discipline to actually follow it.
So, here's the formula in its simplest form. It's all about knowing where to look for ideas, both inside and out, and knowing how to build on them by following this 7-stage process. Great products are never just a happy accident. They are systematically engineered for success.
And it's just amazing to remember that every single product you love, every major company, every world-changing innovation, it all started with just one idea, one little observation, one problem that was just sitting there waiting for a solution. So now you have the map. You know the stages. The only question left is, what problem are you going to solve next?